talking to yours?
Ooby doo.
Oh, good lord, you have to stop that when my ears are on. You have to. That is literally my biggest pet peeve. You have to stop.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try to
on
remember.
edge as it is, because the movie
You're
we just
right.
saw,
I'm
Dave,
sorry.
you gotta think of these things. Mercy.
Oh, man. Welcome back, everybody.
Get it all out, Saul.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Why Do I Talk to You podcast. Oh, man. I am Saul Starsheep 4.
I'm Dave Gamer Dave Naple. We thought we'd hit the bottom before, but we didn't know how low we could go.
Oh, how naive twas I.
Something about these jungle movies.
Yeah. You said that on that on the El Dorado episode, and I was like, yeah, I guess so, huh? But now this
Some new themes. We don't need. Gotta get away from these jungle movies.
I guess so.
I didn't even realize we were doing that, but like every movie we do is like a jungle movie.
I guess so. We'll make sure. No, we did Scott Pilgrim last time.
That's true.
But we love Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
So, obviously, today we are going to be talking about the 2016 Disney remake of The Jungle
Quote
Book.
unquote live action.
Yeah.
Kid was real.
The Jungle... Real bad. Okay, so The Jungle Book, the 1967 animated Disney version, that movie has a special place in Dave and mine heart.
It's just a good movie.
As do most things that we talk about, obviously, in the show, but like... There was one time, we mentioned before on the show, one of these episodes, that we met in college and we're in our university choir and orchestra and did summer tours together. One of those tours, I had The Jungle Book on my iPod and you know, we would share watching movies on my iPod and whatnot. And The Jungle Book was on there just because it was on there. Like, it wasn't for any particular reason. It's The Jungle Book. We love it, right?
Yeah. Who doesn't love that movie?
And we watched it several times because it became sort of like a running joke or like a running thing where like the trumpet solos in I Want to Be Like You just like were stuck in our heads constantly.
Yeah, and that's what forever.
Yeah, and that song too.
I can't do that.
Why was that in our heads so much, Dave?
We needed something. We were just into that movie. It was just, it's a funny movie.
But
It's
it was
got
that
great
particular
music.
part. It was the trumpet solo. Like, why just that? Well, I don't know. Either way, like that movie became like solidified in our friendship soon after that. Okay, so we wanted to try to maybe, and that's not what's going to happen today, but we were going to try to maybe do like an old versus new, sort of compare those two movies. I hadn't seen this movie, the 2016 version, until just a couple of minutes ago. Dave saw it in the theaters?
No, just like I watched it with my mom. She like got it from the local library.
How long ago?
A year?
Oh, okay.
Maybe a year or less. Not that long.
And my wife saw it in theaters, I forget with who. And suffice it to say that both of them...
I wasn't in any rush to see it again.
My wife gave me some indications of like what was in that movie.
But nothing could really prepare
Nothing
you.
could really prepare me. So... All right, I apologize, listeners. I am truly like
He's really if you'd seen the looks of horror on his face through some of this movie, he was like, it was legitimately stressing him out.
Dave did get some candid snapshots of me watching a particular scene, which we'll talk about in a couple. And if there's enough demand, we can post it on the Facebook page, I guess. But, or just replace my avatar head with with that look of shock and disgust.
Oh, we should do that for the YouTube video. We'll just slap it on where your face normally is. Yes. Brilliant.
Oh my gosh. All right. I guess we should just sort of talk about it from the ground up, right?
Sure.
All right. I don't know a single person who hasn't seen the original Jungle Book. And this movie obviously draws from it. This is like the third or like the fourth movie in Disney's like long string of redoing animated movies.
This felt like the biggest one, though. This felt like the one that they tried to make the biggest deal out of, right? At least to me.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay.
Before this was Cinderella, which I would want to do an episode about, but it's that movie was also just very bad and boring and not very good.
I'm not interested.
Do not.
Okay.
And before that was Maleficent.
Maleficent doesn't really, I mean, I guess it counts, but it's not like a direct telling of the same story,
No,
right?
I only wish that they could have kept that going. Like, what if instead of
Yeah.
Cinderella, it was Lady Tremaine? What if instead of the Jungle Book, it was,
Shere Khan.
Shere Khan? I don't know.
Just
like,
follow Shere Khan, just killing stuff. Like, oh, I killed that. Just eating. It'd just be like a nature documentary.
oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess we'll start. We are obviously going to call back to this movie, to the 1967 movie a lot because that movie is almost untouchable in our opinions.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
So the movie begins. The movie begins with like a chase scene, right? Like
Yeah.
with Mowgli running in the forest, the jungle,
Lots of
excuse
quick
me.
cuts and,
Lots
oh,
of quick
what's
cuts and
happening?
just like,
Being chased.
what's happening? What are we here? And you see him like being chased with wolves, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you've seen the movie, which presumably you have seen the 1967 movie,
Or you
right?
at least know enough about
Or at least
like,
you know
the
about
Jungle
it,
Book.
then like this whole scene means nothing to you. All of like the tense music and like the quick jump cuts and Mowgli just like that, all of that just means nothing.
Yeah.
Because they're wolves. As soon as you see that they're wolves, you're like, oh, wait, he's raised by wolves, isn't he?
Yeah, this is
So
fine.
wait, how come and then
So
so
it's like, whatever.
and so the scene ends up sort of dragging on, and that's going to be a recurring theme in the rest of the movie as well. Just dragging. This movie is only about like an hour and 40 minutes long, but good gracious, it
felt
feels
like
like
a
it's like
really long
72
movie.
hours, man. So then Bagheera ends up like play pouncing him, and it just sort of like, no, you're not going to be a good wolf that way.
You're too slow.
Yeah. Bagheera in this instance is played by Ben Kingsley, which is a fine choice, I think. Ben Kingsley's particularly British accent sort of matches the original voice actor. I forget his name. And I liked it. I liked the choice. I guess I'll just go ahead and side shoot right now that when this movie was announced, and particularly when the cast was announced,
Yeah.
I was close to just being completely livid with all of the choices. Dave knows that I have sort of an issue with movies and animated movies or what have you that take just like any big name actress or actor and just make them the voice actor.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I don't like that being a selling point and everything like that, especially if it's a well-known actor with maybe perhaps a distinctive voice.
Yeah.
It takes away,
Yeah.
or at least it can take away. I started to like relent from that little like thing of mine, Dave, when I realized that the Rescuers had the two Rescuers
Of
that's-
all the movies, it was The Rescuers.
well, think about it though.
and
The
I
two-
guess I had to see it.
the two rescuers are voiced by Bob Newhart, extremely famous comedian at the time, and Ava Gabor, again, like a really famous actress at that time. She was in Green Acres and stuff. So like those were well names with distinctive voices as well. The Bob Newhart has a very distinctive delivery that he brought to the character, and Ava Gabor is like Hungarian, I think, or something. So like her accent is there. I hope she's Hungarian. Hopefully, I didn't just completely botch that.
Sorry to all our Hungarian listeners.
So I've sort of relented to that, except in this movie.
Well, you don't have to say except, just say when they do it well.
Oh, fine.
And
You-
they don't do
you
it
got-
well.
you got
here.
me there.
Like, it's just, I still like it in Tangled. Like, I know those voices like bother you a lot, but to me, it's like whatever. And it helps that I'm, an idiot and don't know who any of these people
well,
are.
Tangled,
but,
like Mandy Moore sounds just like a teenage girl, and that's who Rapunzel is.
Yeah.
Right? I have no idea who plays Flynn Rider. If he's
Oh,
like
really?
something, yeah, is he something?
I know who he's most. So my wife really likes him. I think he's most famous for being in Chuck. He's the main person, and I should really know his name. And my wife's probably screaming it right now. He was also one of like Thor's buddies in the second Thor movie. So
didn't
he's
see
like known. He's a guy.
But does he have a distinctive voice, or did he just sound like a dude?
I guess that's the big.
I think he just sort of sounds like a dude, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who Mother Gothel is. I think she's like a big name in Broadway or whatever like
Didn't
that.
I have to tell you that Hook Hand guy was the guy from Everybody Loves Raymond?
Oh, heck no. Of course I know that voice.
Oh, I thought I
That is
told
a
you and
voice.
you were kind of surprised.
No, that is a voice that like stands out. I'll say
yeah,
that.
it does. But I thought it worked fine there.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's got a voice actor voice. I don't know.
He does, because he does a ton of voice acting because of his voice.
Do you know his name?
It's Brad Garrett.
Okay, thank you.
So with that being said, in this movie, right, like I said, we have Ben Kingsley as Bagheera. We have Idris Elba as Shere Khan, who also does a lot of voice actor work, especially for Disney.
He does actually, yeah.
He's Heimdall in Thor, and he's
yeah,
he's in Dark Tower and stuff. Like he's getting up
He's in
there.
Zootopia.
Yes, he did voice acting for that. But his voice is also very distinct.
Yeah.
He shows up relatively early in the movie, like the next scene we're talking about.
But
after
the build-up is way different from the original.
Yeah.
So like basically there's a drought and like there's some law in the jungle where when the lake gets so low that some rock pops out that everybody gets to be friends. It's like, nobody kill each other at the lake because drinking's more important than eating or something. So he like shows up there and causes trouble or whatever.
To be honest, one of the things I do like about this movie is that they do make the animals actually animals. As much
Some
as
of them.
some of them, and
Like-
also some of the time. They do really anthropomorphize the animals with like, quirky human personalities and stuff, but like they do still have like animal instincts or like animal ways of life.
There's a lot of like random side animals that just kind of pop up. Like there's a porcupine and like a pangolin and like a peacock, and they just make some jokes or whatever.
Yeah.
And you kind of like some of them, but I thought that they were always just kind of egregious because they felt more like they just had these weird speech patterns that were like, I'm an animal, so I can't speak correctly, but all the other animals can. So it's actually just because I'm a side character. And it's just like, what? Okay. Like, whatever. It was just a waste of time.
Yeah,
Whatever.
No, I do see what you mean too. But the whole thing with like the truce rock and stuff like that, like I kind of like that.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I guess I can say that at least. Not that I'm like, ooh, like I.
It didn't add anything. It was just there so they could have an inordinately long scene of Shere Khan staring down Mowgli.
And boy, it was
like,
inordinately long.
and monologuing. Like,
So as we said, Shere Khan is introduced in this scene, which in my opinion just takes away a lot of his like mystique and like,
because he's just kind of hanging around.
yeah, like you only just hear about Shere Khan in the book. Sorry, in the animated movie.
We're probably gonna do that a few times.
I might. You only hear about him like a couple of times in the beginning, just like, oh, Shere Khan has returned.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to do something about the man cub. Like, he's gonna kill the boy, and like everybody who like helps him, like, oh, geez, like,
Yeah.
that's mystery and that's build up, right? But nope, he kind of shows up and he's just like, I'm Idris Elba, and the man cub is going to destroy the forest because all men do that. Look at my face, like.
I want to kill him, except I'm not going to make it clear. And later on, I'm going to get you for it. Yeah.
So they try to establish more of like a pack mentality also with Mowgli. Like in the first movie,
The wolves are just like throwaway. It's like he was
Yeah.
raised by wolves. Okay, bye.
there is a scene where Akela actually, says like, actually, Akela wasn't his quote unquote father in the first one. His
Yeah,
name was Brahma, I think, or something like that.
Oh.
Anyways,
huh.
the father
Whatever.
wolf like was sort of just like, I can't take him away. He's like my own son. He says that like maybe once. But in this movie, they have like a mother figure, which did not need to be there, but the mother figure was played by Lupita Nyong'o. And Akela, who is the father figure, quote unquote, in this movie is played by Giancarlo Esposito. So again, just big names, right? Although their voices aren't
Yeah,
they're not so distinct that you're like,
they're
oh,
better
jeez.
than most.
I agree.
I mean, I will just go ahead and say that, like, when I first saw this movie, I was just like, well, there's a bunch of people talking in a sound studio with some animated animals on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it felt like. It was just like, oh, there's a voice that got attached to this animated thing.
Yeah.
Like, it never felt like it was coming from the character. And a lot of times it's because, like, their inflections aren't matching the animation. And this was most egregious with Shere Khan of all characters. Like, he's like your main dude. Like, you gotta animate that well with the voice actor. Like, it just felt like, I don't know, I could have listened to this like it was a radio broadcast, you know, like one of the
Yeah.
old school, like, oh, listen to this story on the radio. It's all the voices. Like, I just could have done that.
Oh, and then Shere Khan comes in from the distance.
Yeah.
What luck!
Something like that.
Okay, so after that, you know, Shere Khan like warns everybody.
Issues his ultimatum. How many
Yeah.
lives is a man cub worth?
And then the council, kind of the wolf council, sort of like votes on it. And this part gets a little confusing because Mowgli is like watching on, and he knows that like he's the cause of like this like anxiety and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's all like, you know what, guys, I don't really want to be a burden. Like I'll just
I'll just leave.
I'll just leave. And then Bagheera, just like the first one, comes in and just sort of like, hold on, I raised you too. Like I'll escort you, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of just unnecessary, just filler.
They walk for a long
They
time.
walk for a long time, and they have, it's essentially as if Mowgli would just like, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Well, then he's like, I want to stay with the turtles or like the crocodiles. And Bagheera's like, what the, no, we know where we're going, like the man village. And he's like, what? I don't want to go to the man village. And Bagheera's like, didn't we just talk about, I'm
you
not
are
sure.
a danger to everybody.
Yeah. It's a little weird. Whatever.
So all that is happening, and then here is a deviation from the first movie also. They're like walking through, first of all, they also run through some elephants who are
right.
apparently the divine benevolent gods of the jungle or something.
Which is really weird.
The elephants in the first movie,
animated, yeah.
they're not really of consequence. They're just sort of there, right?
Kind
But
of jokers, and Bagheera's like, oh, here there's these marching jokers, like whatever, like get out of their way because we'll stomp you. But like, really,
they sing a really catchy marching song.
yeah, they're nice.
And Mowgli like tries to assimilate with them a little bit just because like he's a boy, he's curious, he wants to stay in the jungle. In this one, like they just sort of like walk, and then Bagheera has to like explain that like they made this jungle.
You must bow.
You must
before
bow. Wherever their tusks make something, they
The
determine
river
what is
flows,
like.
yeah.
And you're just like,
All right.
all right. And that's elephant propaganda.
It really was like, oh man, wow, they worked hard to get that news out there. Get everybody to buy into that. Jeez.
So then they're walking through this like dry like meadow or something like that, and then Bagheera is all of a sudden just stops and is just sort of like, you need to run right now. Mowgli's like, what do you mean I need to run right now? It's like, you just need to go up there. I will meet you in a couple of days. Just be quick. What do you mean I had to Shere Khan kind of comes out of nowhere, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, Shere Khan's like stalking them and whatever. I thought I didn't mind that. And what I didn't mind especially, rather what I really liked, was in the animated movie, you never really make the connection that Bagheera is a panther, like a member of the big cat family.
He's the straight man.
Yeah, he's just sort of there. Like Bagheera could have been played by any other animal because it doesn't really matter in the animated movie. And here he actually gets to act like a panther and fight against Shere Khan a couple of times. Like I think that's cool.
That's neat.
Yeah. And so they have a scuffle. He doesn't win because the tiger is a bigger cat than Big Cat Panther.
Fact.
And then we enter into the Lion King apparently.
Yeah, there's a big old wildebeest stampede, and oh no, Mowgli's down there, and Shere Khan gets hit at one point, just out of nowhere. He's just like right on Mowgli's heels, and it's just like, and wildebeest. And yeah, Mowgli hitches a ride, and like later.
And then there's another long scene where like he's still with the wildebeest, and they
It's like a mudslide.
Yeah, they go into like a mudslide, and then they like fall into a river. And then in between this, Shere Khan comes back to the wolf pack.
Yeah.
And is like, presumably there for peace or whatever like that.
And he like sits down because it's like the big rock where the alpha chills, and he just like waltzes up there like he owns the place and just sits down. And Akila's like, all right, whatever.
I don't understand Shere Khan's like no, not his motivation. Like, I guess just his character. Like, yes, he's the antagonist, but like, does he own the place? Or like, because like during the first scene where he shows up, the wolves sort of like make this thing like, Shere Khan knows who runs this jungle
This part of the
jungle, and then like the wolves sort of like go there with like their hair standing on ends, or you just sound like, okay, I guess they do. That's kind of interesting.
Bad
I guess.
job, apparently. Yeah.
But like Shere Khan again just sort of like waltzes around like he owns the place. And like if that was their intent, it didn't really come off in like his voice acting because he doesn't have that sort of like cocky swagger about him.
Yeah.
The first one had a very like Rex Harrison type voice. Like with the scene, like with him and Ka, he's just all like, "It's me, Shere Khan.
Shere Khan.
I'd like a word with you if you don't mind."
Yeah, it's
this like,
very obviously like he runs the joint whenever he's around.
yeah. In this one,
It feels like he's just like part, because in the first one it's like, oh, he's back. Like, where has he been? Like, I don't know, but he's back. In this one it's like, he's around. Like, everyone's like, oh, here's Shere Khan. Like, we all give him his respect or whatever. But he's just like, he's always around. He's just another part of the jungle. And you're like, okay. I mean, he's not an elephant. If he was an elephant. But that's like, it sets up where there's like bigger things than Shere Khan, kind of. And it's just like, I don't know.
So again, he comes up to like the wolf rock or whatever, and it's just all like, where's the man cub? And he's all like, we sent him away. He's going to the man village now. And he says something like, I thought I made it clear that I wanted him. Like,
and you're like,
did you?
It's like that moment in Scott Pilgrim. I thought I made that clear. Did I not?
Was that not clear?
Was that clear? Like that.
Again,
okay.
yeah. Again, it was just. I think that was a moment where I had to pause this movie several times. By the way, I had to pause this movie way too many
dragged it out
times,
even longer.
Unfortunately, but I just had to stop and just like take in what just happened. And this was one of them where I'm just sort of like, wait a minute, who are you? Like, and then so. Afterwards, he's just sort of like, the man cub will come back if we give him a reason to or whatever. And then literally throws Akila off the cliff.
Grabs him and throws him off the cliff. Just like falls. They went like,
and then so then all the other wolves, man, they're horrible at their job.
Like, oh,
they were there watching the whole conversation, like again with like their hairs on end and just sort of like like ready to pounce.
Except not,
because then Shere Khan gets the juke on Akila and then just like I am the captain now.
I'm in charge now. You're just like, well, I guess he is, and they're just like, well,
laws of the jungle. So then we cut back now to Mowgli going down the river. And so then I was like, oh no, Baloo is coming up, right? Because of the river. Turns out there's another character that I forgot about. The character Ka.
Scarlett Johansson. With lots of H's.
With lots of H's, at least 15. So Ka, shows up in the movie, and like everybody knows who Mowgli is. Apparently, like one thing this movie does do is that it makes you feel the vastness of the jungle. And yet everybody he encounters is like, oh man. God.
Well, it's weird because it makes them feel the vast of the jungle, and yet they get everywhere instantly. Like, it takes them forever. It takes them like several days to get to the man village. And then we'll talk about this later. And later in the movie, Mowgli like runs from the man village back to like where the movie started in like the space of a night. And you're just like, what? Like everybody can just be like, it's the same thing. Like, he's traveling with Bagheera for a while and they get jumped by Shere Khan in like the middle of nowhere. And the next thing you know, Shere Khan's like back with the wolves like before evening. And you're just like, okay, maybe the jungle isn't that big. So it's just weird. It takes me out a little bit.
Yeah. So then Ka comes about. Ka, like Dave said, is played by Scarlett Johansson.
Which just sounds like Scarlett Johansson talking into a mic.
It does.
It just sounds like...
It could have been literally anybody else, and it would have been the same exact performance, if not a little better. But, like, nothing against Scarlett Johansson. She's a fine actress. But you just hear Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. It was like, oh, Black Widow voiced Ka. Like, whatever. I don't know.
And, like, maybe they, like... changed Ka to a woman because they were trying to make her like hypnotic or something, but she doesn't really talk that way.
No.
Hypnotic or seductive or whatnot. Ka is just the exposition machine in this movie.
It's really weird.
Ka is there to reveal the twist to you way prematurely in the movie.
Yeah,
Because
because she knows what happened to Mowgli when he was a child for some reason.
which is
His dad was in a cave in the jungle for some reason, and Shere Khan was like, "I'm gonna eat you," and the guy was like, "Ah," and he threw some fire in his face, and Shere Khan was like, "Oh, bugger off," and he kills him, and then kind of runs away, and Mowgli's still just there, and then he wanders out in the jungle, and Bagheera's like, "Oh, hello, I'm also here for some reason," and there you go, Mowgli's backstory.
And so that is what Ka is there for. And like I guess is also there to distract him because all the while Ka is like wrapping around him.
Yeah.
And she does not sing Trust in Me.
But she does say it.
But she does say it.
Mercifully, she doesn't sing it, really.
And then right as she's about to get the kill shot, all of a sudden this big bear is whomping her to death or
just
something.
like completely wrecking her house. It's like, oh, what are you doing here?
And it's like anybody who knows the Jungle Book knows Baloo. So at first you're just kind of like, did Baloo just kill something?
Does Baloo just whack Ka around a bit? What is he doing here?
Baloo does. That's not. But that's Baloo, right? That has to be. What? So then Mowgli comes to because he like fell from a tree, and
There's Baloo.
there's Baloo played unapologetically by Bill Murray.
Are you sure it's Bill Murray?
Everybody loves Bill Murray because Bill Murray always plays Bill Murray, but is that what you want out of your Baloo? Baloo might be the biggest offense in this movie, especially if you compare it to the old one, because they changed his character quite a bit to likable, guy who loves life, just sort of takes it easy.
Chill, but he's like ready to party. Like he just wants to have a good time.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to work. Like
To
let's
just
have a good time.
To just this mooching bum con man.
Yeah.
The first scene is like him like, hey, I saved you. You owe me. You owe me big thing, like
you owe me. It's like, how many times are you going to say that? Like,
so
it just raises all these, whatever, we'll get to that.
So he takes Mowgli to this big, large cliff and tells him, of all things, that there's honey up there.
Go get it for me.
You know that? Do you realize that in the animated movie, honey was not anywhere in the movie?
He like mentions it.
But
in the
instead,
song.
but instead they have to like resort to the biggest bear cliche of all of
Yeah.
eating honey and honeycombs and stuff.
Yeah. And the old movie, he like kind of taught Mowgli, is like, here's the food you could eat, and like, don't pick the prickly pear by the paw. Like he went and got his own food, and he's like, let's just eat it, delicious. And he was like, yeah, this is fun, this is colorful. And this movie's like, go get me my food so I can hibernate, I guess. I'm Baloo.
So Mowgli climbs up that big cliff and he's like trying to grab the honeycomb, and some of these like egregious side characters that Dave was talking about pops up, like a pangolin and like a couple of other things,
A
and
squirrel or
there's
something. Aw.
And so they're all saying that like apparently Baloo does this all the time with monkeys. Like he like maybe rescues them from Ka. We don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like he was like, "Oh, it's another one." Like the monkeys will leave, and it's like, "Oh, it's not a monkey, it's a man cub." It's like, where do you just hang around Ka's house, and just every time she's about to eat, you just like, it's like, "Oh, crikey, this bed just came out of nowhere again." Oh, I should really get that pest control back in here to deal with that. Like,
Carto's not British.
I don't know. Give me a break. Everyone else in this movie is.
And so then Mowgli does it. And like, here's another thing that just sort of like Baloo is just not as likable as the first one is like, because he's like, oh no, these things don't sting,
And of course they do.
And
They're bees.
And then Mowgli comes back, which is probably his only good performance in the movie. Because like, by the way, kid actor is just a kid actor. He's nothing very spectacular.
No, he's nothing special.
But
And,
he
like,
comes.
part of the problem with this movie is that a lot of the scenes are just him walking in a big green screen room with all your fancy effects in the background, just like talking. And you're just like, I don't enjoy this performance. Like, it's not awful, but it's not enjoyable. And so
His delivery is very much like a kid would deliver some of these lines. Like a not good child actor would deliver the lines. And so it's
Yeah.
not. You're taken out quite a bit that way. Anyways, but he does come back down and is just sort of like, hey, what the F, man?
yeah.
Look at all these things. You told me they weren't gonna sting, which
And
is
Baloo
funny.
makes up some BS
The
joke.
Baloo's all like, "Oh, those were females or something, whatever like that." So again, he's just like this big mooch bum, like not likable, not very likable from the get go. Then all of a sudden, Baloo just sort of decides that he likes him, just sort of like, "Hey
Yeah.
kid, you should stick with me
Well, at
because you
first
can
it's
get food for me more."
Yeah, at first he's like, "Oh, stick around because you're gonna feed me." He's like, "Oh, I can't. I gotta get to the man village." And Baloo's like, "All right, I guess I'll take you to the man village." You're just like, "Okay."
Okay.
And so they just get to the man village, which is like, well, I guess this isn't the tension point of this movie because it was in the old one, but now here we are, like at the man village. And so Baloo, like, convinces him. There's like this minor, like, thread through the movie that winds up being like kind of a big point, but like, Mowgli obviously doesn't fit in with the pack. They're always like, "Oh, you gotta do better," and don't run up trees even though you can climb and wolves can't because you got to stick with the wolves. And like, oh, when he were at the watering hole, he like made this like half coconut that he used to scoop up the water, and like, "Enough with your tricks, Mowgli." Bah. And you're just like, all right, whatever. So like he uses his like ingenuity and like creates like a full on pulley system for Baloo and like a saw out of,
and
like,
armor, body armor also.
made of leaves, but like still. So it's like, oh, he's like ingenuitive and like he can create things because he is man. And so Baloo's like, so he's like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. The wolves don't like it." And Baloo's like, "Who cares about the wolves, man? You give me food and you can hang out with me and I'll help you with your stuff. And by that, I mean, I'll let you do it for me so I can get more food, I guess." And so that's enough to get Mowgli to stick around, I guess.
Now, granted, I think if a bear would talk, that's exactly what he would be saying if we could help him get food. But this is
Sure.
Baloo. This is Baloo we're talking about. One of the most likable characters in Disney, like, ever.
Yeah.
Big offense. Big offense. So then Bagheera catches up to them, and Bagheera's fine. At this point, you get very tired with Bagheera's character because at least the Bagheera in the animated movie had some like personality, like
A sense of like he was the straight man, right? Like he reacted to all the ridiculous stuff going on around him, and he had some physical humor where he's just like, my life, like why is this happening to me? And in this, he's just like, "Hello, I am back, and I speak with the same inflection." Yeah.
hello, I am back because I was not here before, but now I am here. Therefore, I am back. Bagheera bot.
Bagheera Bot 2016.
So then we have the conflict, just like in the first one, where like Bagheera needs to take him to the man village, and then Baloo's and Mowgli's all like, "No, stay here. That's what I'm gonna do." Which is okay. So then later, Bagheera is talking to Baloo and tells him like, "Look, Akela was killed by Shere Khan. Like he's gonna stop at nothing to find him." And so that's when Baloo's like, "Oh, okay, I get it." Which took a lot longer, I think, to get to in the first movie. But whatever. This
Yeah, and Bagheera uses the same line, like, "You're the only one he'll listen to," which is like, is he though? Like, they're not that close. They've only hung out for like a day. Like, it's not the same. It doesn't feel like the same.
It's very
connection.
rushed. You're like you're
Yeah.
supposed to make that connection because you've seen the first movie, but like that's just lazy.
Yeah.
So then Baloo, again, showing just how likable he is, has to be like, "I don't want you here anymore."
Yeah. Thanks for the honey. You did what I asked you to do, and now I got enough for the winner, so I'll see you later. Which is weird because you're like, yeah, that's probably what you would normally do based on your character up to now, but I guess you care now, so okay.
I guess you care. I guess you care.
I guess.
When you
like-
have to say "I guess you" something in a movie, that says something about the storytelling. So
Mowgli climbs up a tree to mope. Mope.
and then he's captured by monkeys. So anybody who has seen the first movie knows what's about to go down.
So anybody who's sick of this movie, an hour 20 minutes in, you're not done yet.
Yeah, because I remember when that happened, I was like, "Oh, that's right. We haven't seen King Louie
This
yet."
thing's just there's a scene where Mowgli saves an elephant in between, like when Baloo and Bagheera get together.
Oh, I forgot
and
about
you're just
that,
like,
yeah.
okay, this takes a long time.
Oh, Mowgli uses his like rope technology to save the elephant.
Patented rope technology. And it's supposed to like, yeah, see, it has a place in the jungle, but I don't know how we can really convey how slow everything happens.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff that happened, doesn't sound like that much stuff, but it takes like an hour and 20 minutes. Like there's just so much walking and standing in one place and talking and like
And you know
it
what?
just takes forever. Like Mowgli lands off the river after he gets chased by the water buffalo, and he's like wandering around for what feels like 10 minutes before it's like, oh, Kaa shows up here. Like there's something where some monkeys steal his food, and it's like, why did the monkeys need to steal his food? That didn't do anything. What? This takes time. Anyway, some monkeys.
No, hold on. There's one thing I forgot to mention.
Oh, really?
Baloo did say like, "Oh, guys, it's just it's just the bare necessities." And so at first, I couldn't
You
have
winced.
I couldn't, like my eye twitch, just like, like that. And then all of a sudden during the scene where like Mowgli is like making the pulley system, you hear like light jazz music in the background, and you're like, uh oh. And then, much like in the animated movie, there is a scene where Mowgli is floating on Baloo's belly on the river, and they are actually singing the bare necessities.
And neither one of them is a particularly good singer.
Now,
It just feels like filler in this movie. In the original movie, it's like, yeah, we get a new song. Like, that's a high point. In this movie, it's like, man, this takes a lot of time.
with the scene with Kaa, since she did not sing "Trust in Me," or even like I don't even remember if like the music was like sort of like inferred or not.
I don't think so.
Maybe not, but like she did say "Trust in me," and so that's obviously the connection, right? And like, but they just did that, so I'm just sort of like, okay, maybe they're just gonna like harken back to the songs and like not make this a musical, which is fine. I'll take it. I think that would be kind of weird if they had tried to do all the music in there anyways, but then they actually like sang Bare Necessities. It was Bill Murray and this like kid singing it. I'm just like, this seems just very forced.
Yeah.
This is very, very, very forced. I didn't enjoy a single bit of that because I think Bill Murray is probably the worst case of what we were talking about before of just like, this is Bill Murray's voice coming out of an animated bear. That's all it is. This isn't Baloo. This is Bill Murray's voice coming out of an animated bear. That's all it is.
The worst? I mean, we are talking about the monkeys.
So here we go. The monkeys capture Mowgli. And again, if you've seen the first movie, you know what's about to happen. And this takes for freaking ever for the monkeys to like capture him and put him inside like the castle. And who should be King Louie in this movie but Christopher Walken?
He had a cowbell and everything.
Oh, did anybody else catch that? Where like there's like this thing of like treasures or whatever, and the first and only thing that Mowgli picks up is undoubtedly a cowbell.
Yeah, in the jungle, because that's where it'd be. He donks it around a little bit.
I remember I was like, Mowgli picked it up. I was like, it's a cowbell because it's Christopher Walken. And Dave was like, is it? Is it really? Like, wow, you're totally right. And I'm like, yeah, it totally is.
Totally was.
So I can't do an accurate Christopher Walken impression, so I'm not even going to try. But suffice it to say, if you've heard him speak a sentence, then you know what his delivery is in this movie. It is just Christopher Walken sounding Christopher Walken out of a, what is it called? Like a Gigantopithecus or whatever?
He calls himself a Gigantopithecus. I don't know if that's the correct. It's a big orangutan. And it's not like King Louie in the old one where he's like, he's just an orangutan. This is like he is a massive freaking elephant-sized orangutan because reasons.
And what comes out of this massive orangutan's voice is Christopher Walken's voice. Because that makes sense, right? Right? The casting just writes itself in this. Ah!
Anyway.
Can you move on, please, Dave?
What else is there to say?
Well,
Christopher Walken.
Oh, there's more to say.
Christopher Walken's around a bit, and
there's more to say, Dave. Please just take over.
I mean,
Please.
There's no way I can convey the exasperation I saw on your face when he started singing. I want to be like you.
Allow me to set up the scene, ladies and gentlemen. So we're watching this
This
scene.
is genuine pain, by the way. He's not just doing this for the podcast, because I was there when he watched it, and it was some of the worst angst I've ever seen. It was bad.
Allow me to set up the scene for you, ladies and gentlemen. So already this scene just looks uncomfortable because there's barely any light, and there's
that's right.
big uncomfortable looking orangutan, and it's Christopher freaking Walken trying not to be a comedy, like.
And he's talking like a New York gangster, like he runs the jungle. It's like, oh, you're from the south side of the jungle. Yeah, I never been there. It's nice.
I'm rubbing my temples just talking about this.
You ever had a pawpaw fruit? I only call it that because they did in the original movie. It's actually a papaya. You should eat it. It's good. Yeah, it is.
So then Louis obviously starts talking to him about man's red flower, as everybody else has been talking about so
that's
far.
been a thing everyone talks about, and they all call it man's red flower. So you hear that a lot in the movie.
And so as he's talking about this, you hear a double bass in the background just like jamming along. And then as soon as I heard that, Dave knows, I was like, oh no. Oh no. He's not. Oh no. Oh no. Oh yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The King Louis, played by Christopher Walken, actually starts singing I want to be like you.
Ooh, ooh. That's how he says it.
I want to be like you.
Be like a you. Ooh, ooh. I walk like a you. Can't do Christopher Walken well either. But it's fun to try. But you all had to listen to it, so I'm sorry. Saul really lost his will at that point in the movie. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to finish. I was really not sure if I should try to step in to
I
save
can't
my
explain to you guys just how like offensive this is to like every bit of my Disney sensibility and just my sensibility as somebody who likes good movies and good choices in movies. Like everything about this was just so wrong. But it was like so wrong in a way that it was just like I couldn't, you can't make a joke about it. You're just sort of like watching this big giant building crash to the ground and you're like, how am I supposed to make a joke out of this? This is just horrible. And I mean, it's just like everything you think of. If you've not seen this movie, which good on you, you've not seen this
job,
movie.
you did it.
But just imagine Christopher Walken singing I Want to Be Like You, and you have an accurate display of what it was. And you're like, oh, Christopher Walken's voice is funny, whatever like that. This isn't the time to do that! Because the scene is not played for laughs.
No.
There's actually, they're trying to create some tension in this. Like King
Yeah.
Louis is like saying like, you don't teach me how to make fire, I'm gonna kill you. Like that's
Yeah.
what he's saying.
He makes some things like protection, and I'm the mafia, and I give you protection, you give me this, and we rule this jungle, two of us.
Contrary to the first movie where like the whole thing was a big party. Like they were
Yeah.
all just singing I Want to Be Like You. Baloo like can't help but join in because he loves the music, like the whole thing was just like a wonderful, wonderful scene with a wonderful song originally sang by Louis Prima, R.I.P.
Yeah,
like
Louis Prima's awesome. Check out his music; he's a lot of fun.
you
he's
really
like,
should.
it's actually funny. Have you really noticed he's in like every Will Ferrell movie?
Louis Prima?
Yeah, Will Ferrell has this thing where in every like movie he does, he just like sneaks in a Louis Prima song.
I didn't know that.
In Elf, it's Pennies from Heaven. That's Pennies from Heaven by Louis Prima.
Wow.
And in Kicking and Screaming, there's another Louis Prima song that he sneaks in there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if I know very little about this movie. I don't know if it's the same director or like if it's a running joke, but I don't know, it seems like Will Ferrell's a fan of Louis Prima. Random side note, but
Okay, well.
I'll have to look at. I don't know. I don't remember if he did that. And like, I'm not a huge fan of his, but like those two movies, obviously. So I don't know if he did in like Step Brothers or whatever else.
So I don't want to labor the point, but just to say that this was undoubtedly the worst thing I've ever seen in a Disney movie ever. I would much rather rewatch all of The Road to El Dorado gladly than have to watch that one scene that was maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, which felt like it was
Probably
at least 3
10.
weeks.
It felt like forever. All the scenes in this movie feel like that really stretched out.
I would gladly. I would. oh so gladly rewatch El Dorado instead of that one scene. Can you please continue, Dave? I need a moment.
Well, basically during the whole, Baloo comes in and instead of anything funny, he just stands there and talks for too long and quote unquote distracts the monkeys, and Bagheera's like, hey Mowgli, come over here. And so they try to go out, but they get caught, and there's a big chase scene, and Bagheera and Baloo murder hundreds of monkeys, and it's fine, they're just monkeys, they can't talk for some reason too. And throughout the course, like, King Louie gets off his giant orange butt and chases Mowgli around for a while, and throughout the course of this he passes on the news that, oh, by the way, Shere Khan killed Akira, which Bagheera had known, and he had told Baloo, but nobody told Mowgli because he kind of got kidnapped, and then he's like, gets all pissy, and Bagheera's like, you knew, and Bagheera's like, well, I would have told you if you weren't kidnapped by freaking monkeys, like, give me a break here, kid. But, Mowgli runs off when King Louie gets buried under, the mountain of rocks, and you assume he's dead, but don't worry, he comes back in the credits to sing a reprise. But that's neither here nor there. So Mowgli runs off, and throughout the movie there'd been this like running theme of, basically just don't play with fire, kids. But they got to make it sound better, so it's don't mess with the red flower, but it's don't play with fire. But Mowgli gets pissed, and he sneaks into the village and steals a torch and runs all the way back through the jungle. He runs all the way back in the span of one night to get right back where he started, because apparently it's right there. And oops, he set the whole jungle on fire.
There's a brief little transition shot where like you see some of like the embers fall off from his
brief.
Where you see some of the embers fall off from the torch and just like start to ignite the ground. So you're just like, oh boy. Oh, that cannot be good. Mm-hmm. Which, to be honest with you, I thought was an interesting direction. They didn't do that in the first one, and I thought that was kind of interesting because it kind of forced Mowgli to look at himself like, I am a man.
I guess.
I did this. And Shere Khan, obviously brings that up too. He's just sort of like, oh, they're not afraid of me. They're afraid of you.
I told you guys so.
And he looks behind him and the whole forest is ablaze.
Millions are dead.
It's just like,
oh, oops.
And then Mowgli throws away the torch, and then Shere Khan's all like, well, that was stupid.
And you're just like, yeah, that was really stupid, wasn't it?
So then Baloo actually gets his hands dirty more than in the animated movie.
Yeah, they recite the law of the jungle or whatever. Who cares?
Who cares? But then Baloo actually steps in and fights, and which again treated him more like a bear than in the animated movie. So that I didn't mind that.
Yeah,
maybe I even kind of like that. And then Baloo is subdued. There is no real death scare in this movie, though. There definitely was in the animated movie, and this one was just sort of weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the way that Shere Khan gets his is that Mowgli runs into the burning forest and uses his technology to create a safety pulley for himself.
It tries to call back. I didn't even realize it's the first time, but it tries to call back to the beginning of the movie where he fails running away from Bagheera because he climbed this dying tree, and so the tree branch broke, and Bagheera's like, oh, you should have known it was dead. And Mowgli's like, how the heck should I know? And Bagheera's like, oh, it's got the crow on it. Pip pip. And so he goes up one of those trees and basically tricks Shere Khan into following him up there, and he creates this weird pulley system to where he can jump off and grab it, but Shere Khan's SOL, and so when the branch snaps, he goes full Lion King.
And vaporizes.
As soon as he touches the flame, just poof. There you went. Rip Shere Khan.
We thought that was interesting.
Weird.
Yeah. Whatever. At least it's over, right? Yeah. And then and
that's basically the movie.
Well, okay, we do have one more scene with the god elephants, right?
Oh, right.
Where all of a sudden, after Shere Khan vaporizes, then the elephants sort of show up, and Mowgli's like, "Where were you guys?" No, it was just sort of whatever they. Anyway, so then the elephants, because they're god or whatever,
their job, I guess,
they somehow know how to redirect the river to flow directly into the forest fire so that it gets extinguished.
You're like, whatever.
And then the last scene is a recall of the first one where he's running away from the wolves.
But he's actually teaching them because he come into his own, I guess, and whatever.
And I mean, that's it.
And he just stays in the jungle.
He just stays in the jungle.
Like if you watch the first and you're like expecting him to like go back or whatever, but he just stays. He just chills. It's fine.
And that's basically it. Except it does end also with like the same way the animated movie begins and ends with like an
the
actual book
closing.
Even though this movie didn't start with that.
No, it didn't
so
open with that.
Good job. And then the book reopens and like Dave said, King Louis reemerges and sings the song again. To which I just stopped.
Immediately turned.
I was going to like watch like the whole in case there were like credits in there, whatever like that. But I was just like, no. Not gonna.
Bad King Louis. Back under the rocks. Bad.
So, couple of things still. I guess just because I kind of like went over everything that is just like so offensive, but it's just sort of like, why did this need to be made? Why did we need this? Especially since the animated movie is just way better.
Yeah.
The execution of the animated movie,
like at least they did some stuff different and didn't just follow like the thing with him like coming into his own with the technology and sort of learning how to be like a man and like what he being himself. Like that's all well and fine, but it just kind of gets buried under like all the other muck and stuff in this movie where it's just like everything takes so long. It's okay in theory, but
I guess it's okay in theory. Like if you were to read the script,
yeah,
and you were like, okay, some of these things are interesting, but I'm willing to go with it,
sure.
right?
Like you had the things you liked where they're more like animal-y, and it kind of it does a good job of like Bagheera is a panther, Baloo is a bear, Mowgli is a man, and he doesn't know how to be a man, so he's got to like learn how to do that. And no one really wants him to be a man because he's a wolf, but he's not actually a wolf, so like he's kind of got to. There's like kind of a nice scene where Baloo like talks him through that. But it's only nice if you ignore the fact that there's like no reason contextually for this to really be happening. Like Baloo shouldn't have this in-depth insight into Mowgli or like this much sway over his emotions because they like literally just met and he got played by this bear. So I don't quite get where that like pathos is coming from.
Yeah.
But theoretically, again, if you like just read the script, you're like, okay, like I see where this is going. This is nice. It's something different from the first movie. It actually adds a little bit more depth than the animated movie, arguably.
Yeah.
And so it's okay in theory, but
The execution was just bad.
Yeah.
This may be like the biggest example I can think of just a poorly executed movie. Even when we're talking about like the CG, it's like the most backhanded thing, the most backhanded compliment I can give about this movie is that, wow, that CG looks really good.
yeah.
That's so backhanded because I mean, like I looked it up and it said that like all the photography took place in like LA Sound Studios, which means nobody ever stepped foot on a jungle for this. And it's like,
I mean, there's only one actor anyway. But.
well, yeah, that's true, huh? Except for like some silhouettes and like the man village or whatever. But like, yeah, this all completely took place in a big green room, essentially, with like some trees as props and whatever like that. And I don't know if the actors like mocapped themselves in there. Maybe they didn't. I mean, I'm sure there were some mocapping actors, but
really?
so that he can talk to somebody. I mean, but either way, you're pretty aware that this is all CG as well. It's not that it's bad, but you can still tell that it's CG. And it's like I could be playing a video game and be looking at like the same sort of like animation here. You know what I mean? And it's like the animals, sure, you have to CG them because you have them speaking and like, doing particular things, whatever like that. But the CG is just, it's there. You know what I mean?
It just is CG.
You're not in the jungle. You're watching a rendering,
Yeah. And the voice acting again doesn't help.
No.
Yeah.
Everything like this movie does nothing but like take you away from the immersion. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what this movie is all about, which is like that's where you get poor execution. The voice acting is not good because it doesn't line up with things.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the direction or if Scarlett Johansson was just like, yeah, I'll talk for 10 minutes for plot exposition. Don't take my $1 million now, please. Like, you know, I wouldn't blame her. Like, she's hardly in this dang movie, but you just wonder about, like, if everybody was like that. And boy.
Yeah, because Ben Kingsley started out fine, in my opinion, and then just got wooden as it went on.
He changes inflections once when he gets mad at Mowgli, like, after they meet Baloo. And then for the rest of the time is, I am Bagheera. This is how I talk. And this is how I will talk for the remainder of the hour of this movie. I talk more than any other character, so you will hear this voice a lot. And we walked through the forest, and the elephants, they rule all, they are God. Bow before them.
and like we said before, Idris Elba is just sort of like just Idris Elba. And side note, did anybody else notice that he was completely blowing out his mic
Like
during a couple
lot.
of scenes?
Like, he does it. It was one thing where it was like the one scene where he did it once. I was like, oh, they didn't catch that. And then he does it again, the same scene. I'm like, what? And then I realized when he comes back later in the movie that he just keeps doing it. And I'm just like, I mean, you were more like than I was.
Well, because how does anybody let that pass? Like,
They had to be doing it stylistically. They had to decide internally, like, oh, it makes him more tigerish.
No, that's bad on you don't. It's like
It's too prevalent for it to be anything else. There's no way nobody caught it.
well, that would be like if they were filming something and it's like, oh, we need more light. Oh, okay, and they break the camera lens to let more light through in. Like, that is what you are saying here. There's no way they would have let that pass.
So what, you're saying they just didn't catch it?
Maybe.
Are you kidding me?
I don't know. Like, I can't explain why that's in there.
We're leaving all mic blowouts in this episode in tribute to Idris Elba.
In tribute to everything here, we're just going to talk normally. I'll normalize the volume, don't worry. They're just going to sound like a big, distorted mess, just like Idris Elba's performance in this movie.
We might want to turn that one down a little bit.
I mean, I will, but this is gonna be against everything I believe in as a
Against
sound
everything
producer.
you stand for.
But I mean, and that does. I mean, that's kind of minor, but like
It's not minor. It's so, like, Joe Blow, sound guy off the street, could have caught that, right? Like, I don't know. Like, you could listen back and be like, man, it kind of sounds like you were a little loud there. Like, why don't you do another take? Or, like, figure you've got the best freaking sound equipment in creation and you can't, like, fix that? Like, I don't know. Like, you could have done something. It's just, it is not, theoretically, it kind of is the worst thing this movie does. Because there's one thing to be like, oh, we really thought Christopher Walken would work at Louis. And you're like, well, you're an idiot. But, like, I guess you wanted to try and, like, theoretically it could work. But, like, this is like, who, like, raise your hand if you like blown out microphone sounds in your movie. Like, no one? All right, we're leaving it in. Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to, like, cast a bunch of A-listers and be like, yeah, we're just going a different direction and it's Bill Murray's Baloo now. It's like, I mean, he's not Baloo anymore, but I can kind of almost see why you wanted to try that. But
yeah, I can.
you know, but if you're just blowing out microphones, it's like, well, now you're just like a C-level production studio. Like, good job, you did it.
Oh, so, ladies and gentlemen, that is the new Jungle Book. I am not a fan pretty much of any of the live action Disney remakes that I've seen. My wife has seen the new Beauty and the Beast and actually said it was pretty good. So that might be something to talk about, especially since you're not that much a fan of the original Beauty and the Beast. Is that right?
It's just, yeah, it's fine.
So that might be something interesting to talk about in the future. But I saw Cinderella, like I said before, and I just fell asleep, I'm pretty sure, in that movie. And it's rare that I actually fall asleep in a movie, but oh my goodness, that movie just gave me no choice. So, and like, from what I understand, there's going to be like a 101 Dalmatians remake coming up soon. I think there is an Aladdin one. The casting for the Lion King one was just released.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you didn't see that?
Who is it?
Well, it's just a lot of people. James Earl Jones is coming back as Mufasa, though.
That's nice. They haven't announced Aladdin yet, have they?
I don't think so. I don't think so for that.
Who's your money on for the genie?
That's gonna be a hard one.
Don't mess it up. No, just think who's like the most obvious choice who's also obviously gonna mess it up because they're just gonna be themselves.
Are you leading to something?
No, I'm just curious. You know more names than I do, but that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna get a big name who they're like, you are funny on your own, and you're just gonna be you in a CG genie.
They're probably gonna get somebody who can do impressions, which could mean, on the worst side of the spectrum, someone like Jimmy Fallon. Could be Will Ferrell.
Oh gosh. I mean, I actually like Will Ferrell when he's clean. Like I liked Kicking and Screaming and Elf and like the original Anchorman. I mean, that one's not clean, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I like him sometimes.
Yeah, I like him sometimes, and sometimes I really don't like him.
In any case, I was very much against The Jungle Book when it was announced, when it was released, when I heard people who saw it were just sort of like, that was not good. And I'm even more against it now. I'm pretty much against all the live action Disney releases. However, again, like I said, my wife did see Beauty and the Beast and said it was good. And I heard some people say that it was good as well. So I have to reserve judgments for that.
Mixed reviews.
I got to reserve judgments for that. But yeah, that's The Jungle Book.
Yeah. For the record, I mean, is this like one of your like worst movies for you? You've seen?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think
You know
about
what I mean?
it. I'd have to think about it. I feel personally hurt, though, because of how much I love the original.
I'm not as offended by it, I guess, because I expected this kind of betrayal. But, you know, it's kind of how I don't know what to think about, like, Incredibles or Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to those at all. I'm going to
You
see them, but
you
I'm not
didn't look
looking
forward to
them.
Wreck-It Ralph, the original, so that's... But, I mean, The Incredibles we both love.
I'm
so
not looking forward to Incredibles 2.
I'm really scared.
There's no way they can strike lightning twice there.
It'd be really hard. If they do... I mean, to be fair, Kung Fu Panda... I liked the first Kung Fu Panda, but it wasn't, like, incredible. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that, actually. Dang it. But I saw Kung Fu Panda 2, and I was, like, blown away. I was like, wow, that's so good. It's, like, even better. So it could happen. It's just... odds aren't in its favor.
No. Pixar sequels generally aren't... We've had it once with Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah.
Cars 2, no.
Anyway, all I was going to say was, like, this movie, it is not as offensive to me. It's just... I like some of the things they do, but it's too boring for me to watch again. Like, I would never want to watch this movie again, but I'm not going to rail against it as much as you. Like, I don't hate Christopher Walken as King Louis as much as you do. Like, I get what they were going for.
Do you?
Yeah, they're going for mob boss because he's the king of the monkeys and he tells them what to do and they go do it. And so he has a lot of mob boss language in there. And so Christopher Walken's got kind of that New York style.
So why did they get like an Italian or something? Like,
because they're not famous enough.
Somebody from like The Sopranos, maybe, or like. I don't want to fight on this. I just want to go to bed.
I'm just saying, in case you're like wondering, I'm not as like vehemently against it, but I still would never like willingly say let's watch the live action. Like if someone suggested like let's watch the live action Jungle Book, I'd be like, I mean, there's a lot of other good movies out there, but I mean, I guess if you really want, that was basically how I got roped into it in the first place. My mom just wanted to watch a movie with me, and like that was kind of the least egregious one she was offering.
Oh
and
boy,
that
one was.
It was more like the other ones just didn't interest me, and I was like, I want to see what this movie is about, you know? So, all right, we'll watch this Jungle Book.
It's not going to be like my life's mission to like, you know, eradicate the memory of this in people's minds. Unlike Road to El Dorado. Road to El Dorado, we're kind of on the same page for that. Just sort of like, why do you like this movie? No.
I don't know. After watching this, maybe I know why people like this movie. Because I probably like Road to El Dorado better than this. At least it's entertaining sometimes.
Yeah.
And you can laugh about some of the stuff.
Yeah. That's why I would rather watch that than the King Louis scene.
Yeah.
So, is that about it?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm done.
I'm so tired, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for, again, sticking along with us on another movie rant.
Listening to a lot of yelling from Saul.
Yeah,
Good job, Saul.
yeah, I was genuinely angry.
Yeah, he was.
Now I'm just like, I need like a Red Bull or something.
Yeah, you gotta go. Well, whatever.
Yeah. So thank you again, everybody, for listening. Giving on our special thanks as usual. Special thanks to Danny Barrett Huvert for the artwork. Thank you to the combined efforts of OC Remix, Rob KTA, and Expert Novice for the intro and the outro music. And with that,
Well, don't forget about our social media pages. Go find us
like,
on
comment, subscribe.
Facebook,
Like, comment,
WDD
subscribe.
Podcast, and you can email us at Gmail, WDDpodcast@gmail.com, all that fun stuff. So comment, subscribe, reviews on iTunes and whatever other things you use. And yep,
we'll see you on the next one.
yep, take care.